Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy Sofa here and welcome back to a brand new YouTube video. Now in today's video, I'm showing you guys how you can end up completing the Fool's Gold Dead Rails Challenge. Now before we get to this video, make sure you like and subscribe as it would really appreciate it and it does help with the channel. And yeah, let's get directly into this video. Now before you start off your game, you're going to want to pick yourself a good class. So if you're playing solo, I highly recommend using Survivalist class. This is probably the best solo class in the game. And if you're playing co-op, I would have one person on the horse class and one person on the conductor class, as this is going to get your game done really quickly. Now once you have your class ready, simply just go over to the starting podium, select the Fool's game mode, and we can end up getting into this guy. And now we're inside of the game mode. Now you're pretty much just going to start this off like any other run. You're simply just going to go over and sell your gold to get your $70. Now from here, what you can end up doing is you can end up going over to the gunsmith and buying yourself a revolver with some ammo. That's personally what I would end up doing, as it's going to be important later on. And you're going to have 20 left over. Simply what you're going to want to do is just buy a piece of coal and collect these 3 newspapers outside and put it all inside of the oven. Now in case you don't know what you're doing, basically we're looking for this thing called Fool's Gold, which kind of looks like little gold nuggets. Pretty much we're going to end up turning that in until we end up getting the Fool's Key, which you're going to end up needing to beat the game. Now this Fool's Gold can literally be found in any structure except for mines, churches, and Fort Constitution. So don't look there, but look in every single building else. Now as y'all can see right here, I ended up approaching my first building and there really wasn't anything in here worthwhile. There was this painting and I could probably sell that later, so I just ended up welding it into my train. But basically you're just going to end up looking at houses kind of like this all over the place. Now again, there wasn't really much in this other house right here. There was a turret and a barn, so I just ended up attaching this turret to the train. Now at this point, I had ended up taking the train all the way until I would end up finding a town. And eventually I would end up spotting a town in the far distance right next to this sheriff's office. So what I would end up doing is going ahead and looting the sheriff's office. Now in here again, I wasn't able to find no Fool's Gold, but that's okay because we're literally gonna hit this town right after and it's gonna have a bunch of Fool's Gold. But at the moment, I didn't really find much. I found this Mauser on the floor and some ammo, so yeah, I mean, it was alright. And this little shoulder pad as well, I almost forgot to mention that. But yeah, I ended up getting some stuff, getting equipped and locked and loaded and ready to end up looting the town. Now eventually I ended up making it to town 1 right here, as you guys can see, but it was already nighttime, so it was a little more difficult to end up looting it up. But basically what I had ended up doing is getting the bank key and pretty much just spending the night inside of the bank. I really couldn't do much because it was nighttime and it was a vampire night and they were gonna probably kill me, but yeah, I was just taking my time, keeping my distance, and we could really hit the whole town tomorrow when it was daytime. Now eventually it had ended up turning day and I was ready to end up going ahead and looting the rest of these houses. Now as you guys can see, eventually I was able to find my first piece of Fool's Gold. As you guys can see, it looks like this little gold ingot that I was talking about. So you could just go ahead and end up storing it inside of your sack, and pretty much what you're going to want to do is just loot every single last one of these houses. Now I ain't gonna lie, it could take you a little minute because there's a lot of houses in big towns and there's a lot of zombies, but yeah, just take your time, go ahead and loot these houses. If you have to, keep your distance and use as many heals as you want. You just don't want to get downed or anything, but yeah, you know what I'm saying, keep your distance. Now at this point, you guys should have ended up clearing up the entire town, and what I had ended up doing in my game is I went to the church to go grab the crucifix. Also, I had picked up a couple of dead bodies, you know, so I can end up fueling up the train a little bit. And now at this point, we can end up heading over to the 10,000 meter mark, or our first fort. Now at this point, I had ended up making it over to the 10,000 meter marker and I was ready to sell my Fool's Gold. Now your first time around, you may not have that much Fool's Gold. For me personally, I only had 2 pieces of Fool's Gold, so it wasn't that much, but yeah, I had ended up selling it and pretty much I didn't get jack diddly squat. First off, I had ended up getting $1. The second thing I had got was 5 bandages, which is a little bit better, but yeah, you know, not really much. So now at this point in your game, you're just going to want to sell the rest of your stuff. So sell all the gold and silver you had ended up getting from the town so you could get a bunch of money. Now what I would recommend doing with this money is I'd end up stocking up on ammo and buy yourself like a rifle or something. Also buy some snake oil as well. Snake oil is very important. You know, it can really help in this game mode, especially later on when we're trying to go from building to building to get all the gold's ore and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, just go ahead and buy all that stuff. We can end up moving on to the next segment. Now at this point, we got everything we end up needing to continue on with the run. So at this point, I had ended up getting on the train and just going ahead and setting off. Now at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and look for a couple of buildings on the side. Eventually, I do end up finding and coming across one. But yeah, you know what I'm saying? You don't really want to pass up on these buildings usually. I mean, you can. Like, your game probably is going to be a little bit longer if you pass up on these buildings. But yeah, they usually contain like 1 or 2 pieces of Fool's Gold, especially later on in the game. This blue house right here, I believe in this footage right here, I had ended up getting me a gold bar right here. So as you guys can see, I'm over here just taking my time, using my gun a little bit here and there, and as you guys can see, there was a Fool's Gold inside of here, so I just ended up collecting it right quick, headed back to my train and just kept about my business, and yeah, kept moving on and going to the next town. Now here in my footage, I had temporarily stopped at the town of Sterling. Now you might be asking, why am I here, as I literally said you cannot get no gold ore from here. Well, that's true. I just came here to, you know, get a couple of bonds. If you guys do want to end up doing that, you could go ahead and get some bonds, but do not go here if you're just strictly going to beat the game mode, okay? If you go here, it's kind of like a waste of time. You will not get no gold ore at the town of Sterling or even in the mines, like I said earlier. So honestly, I only went over here just to get a couple bonds, you feel what I'm saying? But yeah. Dear, if you find your way back to this house, I took everything and left for San Antonio. I hope to meet you there. I can't wait anymore. It's a pretty interesting note. Now, your boy was able to spot another town over there in the distance, but real quickly, before I had ended up going over to the town, I went to go loot this house right quick. As you guys can see, I was going ahead and looting this house, and I have found another gold piece of ore right here, which is going to be very important for later. So, yeah, as you guys can see, they're pretty more frequent after the first 10,000, so you know what I'm saying? Maybe that's saying something. Now, at this point, we've ended up making it over to town too. Now, what we're going to do is simply just keep our distance and use our guns to our disposal. So, I have a Mauser, I have the rifle, all types of long-range weapons, but basically, I was just using this at my disposal, looting up these buildings, and eventually it did end up turning nighttime, so we did have to kind of put this to a halt until the morning. Now, at this point, what you're just going to want to do is just keep your distance, and you're going to loot these houses very carefully. You also have a bunch of snake oil and bandages if you do end up needing to heal up. Now, I'm not going to bore y'all too much to death with my looting process, but basically, it was remotely kind of the same thing. What I would end up doing is go over to the house, loot it up a little bit, you know what I'm saying, see if there was some gold, or if there wasn't, I would go ahead and leave that house alone. A lot of houses, I didn't even see no gold ore, so I didn't even bother looting it. But yeah, just take your time, loot up all the houses. It could take you like a whole entire in-game day, which is what it took me in this footage right here, but yeah, I was able to find a whole lot of pieces of gold ore as well. And make sure you're hitting the banks as well. You're definitely going to want some money for later, because we're going to have to stock up on coal and stuff to end up making it, you know what I'm saying, further and further. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, this was my whole looting process for the second town, and eventually I was able to leave with a bunch of gold ore, gold ingots, all type of stuff, you know what I'm saying. But yeah, now at this point it's nighttime. I had finished up looting up the second town, and you should probably be finished around this time too, so you can end up hopping back on your train, and you can end up heading over to the next milestone. Now, it's up to you if you want to end up looting a couple of houses. And this footage, I did end up looting a couple of houses. I didn't really find much in there, but yeah, you can end up looting that, or you could just end up heading over straight to the 20,000 meter marker. But yeah, that's what I had ended up doing, and we can end up going over there now. Now, firstly, I had went over here to end up selling all of my valuable items, and you know what I'm saying, that's probably what you should do first. Sell your valuable items first. Also, there was like a gold ore in there. I didn't even see it, but I had ended up getting the electrocutioner in this. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty interesting. A very good drop. You can pretty much get anything from these gold ores, but one thing you should know about opening them is you have to be careful, because they can spawn bad stuff. They can spawn dynamite, they can spawn zombies, they can even spawn the Tesla boss. Yes, the Tesla boss. So you have to be careful when you're opening these. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, I was able to loot these gold ores, and eventually I was able to get my hands on the key. Now, after this, I had around like $479. So what I had ended up doing is just spending all of that on coal, because I had the key at this point, and I didn't really have to do much more looting. If you still don't got the key, you're probably gonna have to loot a couple more times, but this footage provided, I ended up getting the key pretty early. So at this point, I would just end up buying a whole bunch of coal, so I could end up just, you know, riding the train all the way to the 80,000 marker meter, and we can end up figuring out how to beat this game. Now, at this point, what I had ended up doing is taking the train and driving it all the way to the 80,000 marker meter. We had literally had all of the coal we ended up needing to, you know, drive all the way there. We had a bunch of snake oil. We had pretty much everything. We even had the electrocutioner. So, you know what I'm saying, we were straight. We was really good and ready to end up beating this game. And now I'm going to show you how you can end up beating this game mode and finally getting the achievement, the Fool's Gold achievement. Now, once I had ended up making it over to the fort, what I had ended up doing is popping out of the car, and I had popped a couple of snake oils as well, so, you know, I wasn't able to, you know, get popped. But pretty much what I had ended up doing is going ahead and getting some high ground, took my electrocutioner, and I was just mopping stuff. Like, I was using that boy, I was going crazy, man. But yeah, what you're going to want to do is keep your distance a little bit, use your electrocutioner, clear out the place. If you don't have it, use your rifles or weapons or whatever, just go ahead and clear out it, you know what I'm saying. It's not nightmare mode, so they're actually fairly easy to end up clearing out. You know, I was actually surprised it was this easy, to be honest. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, I got the electrocutioner, so yeah, very easy, very simple. And once you are ready, simply what you're just going to want to do is you're going to end up going over to this locked fort right here. As you guys can see, it's going to be one of the buildings. It's going to replace one of the main buildings, and simply you're just going to want to end up using your key. Now, once you end up opening this door, you're going to end up getting the achievement popped up, and you're done. Now, from this point, you can end up completing the game or leaving, depending on what you want to do. It's your preference. Personally, I would recommend you end up completing the game, because, you know, you made it this far. You have all these OP stuff. You know what I'm saying? So just go ahead. That's what I had ended up doing. I was just mopping stuff. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I was just, you know what I'm saying, going crazy on these bandits and stuff. But yeah, you know what I'm saying, do what you want to do. Leave the game, continue it, complete it. It doesn't really matter. And yeah, you know what I'm saying. And yeah, and that's gonna end up wrapping it up for this video. I hope you guys did end up enjoying. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe. Free y'all as well. And I'm out. Bye.